All right. Ready to dive deep into Exodus chapter 34.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So we've got our trusty King James version here. And
Yeah.
to guide us along the way, we've got a commentary by Matthew Henry from 1710.
Oh, wow.
So it's like having a time-traveling study buddy, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So for those who haven't cracked open Exodus lately, this chapter really gets into the aftermath of that whole golden calf incident. You remember that one, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, talk about drama. You got Moses, he's up on Mount Sinai receiving the Ten Commandments, right? And then everybody down below is throwing a wild party.
Yeah, with a homemade god, basically.
The DIY god.
Right.
It's pretty bad timing, let's just say.
Yeah, for sure. So chapter 34 is basically God and the Israelites hitting the reset button on their relationship, right? We've got new tablets, a divine proclamation, a whole lot of rules, but first, let's talk about these replacement tablets. God tells Moses to carve some new ones after, Moses smashes the first set. Is this like a cosmic do-over, or is there...
It's more than just a do-over, right?
Okay.
I mean, you have to think about it.
Yeah.
These new tablets really symbolize God's willingness to renew the covenant, right?
Oh, okay.
Despite the Israelites' major slip-up, it's a pretty big deal.
Right. So it's more about like the commitment than the... Okay, that makes sense. Then we get to this really incredible moment where God proclaims his name and nature to Moses, right?
Yes.
It's Exodus 34.67.
Yeah.
And honestly, it reads like a divine character sketch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
It's like God saying, this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is the real me.
And it's such a powerful...
Gee, love it.
Yeah, right. Deal with it. So, he describes himself as merciful, gracious, long-suffering, abundant in goodness and truth.
It's all right there.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Laid out.
And Matthew Henry, in his commentary, he really digs into these attributes, doesn't he?
Oh, he goes deep.
Yeah.
He wants to get to the heart of it.
He expands on each one.
Yeah.
Almost like he's painting a portrait of God with words, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, for example, he says God's mercy is vast. Right. It extends to
thousands of generations. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of generations.
Right. Yeah.
But Henry also makes it very clear that God's grace, his unmerited favor, it doesn't erase the consequences of our actions.
Ah. Okay. So it's not a free pass.
No.
Right.
Not a free pass.
You don't just get to do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He emphasizes the importance of repentance.
Okay.
Right. You have to turn away from sin.
So there has to be a change on our part, right?
Change of heart, yeah.
Okay.
For forgiveness to really take hold. And that's where the sanctifying grace comes in. Right? It's not just about being pardoned. It's about being transformed, being made holy.
Right. So it's not just wiping the slate clean. It's deeper than that.
It's about becoming more like God.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So forgiveness requires a change of heart, a real effort to align our lives with God's will.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, got it. So it's not a free pass.
No.
God is both merciful and just.
Absolutely.
Right. And you see that idea play out, throughout the whole Bible, right?
Yeah.
But it culminates in Christ's sacrifice. It's like...
Yeah, it's the ultimate expression.
Gold. Exactly.
Love and justice intertwined.
Yeah, wow, that's...
heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff. All right, then we get to the scene where Moses is... pleading with God on behalf of the Israelites.
Right.
Right. And he straight up calls them a stiff-necked people.
He does.
Which honestly sounds kind of insulting, doesn't it?
It's not a compliment.
No.
No, not at all.
So what does stiff-necked even mean?
Well, it basically means stubborn, unyielding. He's really acknowledging their tendency to rebel, to stray from God's path. But what's fascinating here is even while he's calling them out, pointing out their flaws, Moses is still interceding for them.
Right. So he's like...
He's acting as a mediator.
He's their defense attorney almost.
Right.
Like,
exactly. Pleading their case.
Yeah.
Even though...
he knows they messed up.
Yeah, he knows they messed up big time.
Yeah. So what do you think that says about his character?
Well, I think it shows a deep sense of loyalty and compassion, even when he's frustrated, right? I mean, Moses understands their weaknesses.
Right.
But he still believes they can be God's chosen people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It shows a level of intimacy with God, too, I think.
Okay.
That allows him to be frank.
Yeah.
To challenge God.
Okay.
Even bargain with the divine.
Yeah. So even though he's up there on the mountaintop, he's still connected to his people.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So let's move on to like the actual renewal of the covenant. God lays out some very specific conditions for the Israelites to follow, right?
And you can see how those rules directly address the issues that led to the whole golden calf incident.
Yeah, totally. Like God really emphasizes the need to drive out other nations and to avoid making treaties with them.
Right, because mixing with other cultures often led the Israelites to adopt foreign gods.
Yeah, and foreign practices. And all that stuff. It's like God is saying, stick to your own lane, guys.
Yeah, stay focused.
Right. Don't get distracted by all the shiny idols next door.
Keep your eyes on the prize.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's that line that always grabs my attention. It's Exodus 34.14. For thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God.
Oh, yeah, the jealous God concept.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one.
This can be a little...
unsettling.
Yeah, I mean, unsettling is a good word for it. I don't know.
It can seem a little harsh.
Yeah, possessive maybe.
Yeah, a little possessive.
Yeah.
But I think it helps to think about it from the perspective of, like, a loving parent who wants to protect their child.
Exactly.
Right. From harm.
Yeah.
They don't want to see their child get hurt by making bad choices.
Right.
So maybe in this context, idolatry isn't just about worshiping.
Right. It represents a turning away from God.
Right.
A betrayal of the covenant.
Yeah.
And that has serious consequences.
Okay, so God's jealousy is more about...
It's about safeguarding...
the relationship.
To relationship, right.
Okay.
Making sure that they don't...
stray from the path.
Get led astray.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. It's about protecting them from harm, ultimately.
Yeah.
Right. He wants what's best for them.
He does.
Okay, that makes sense.
Even if it means setting some firm boundaries.
A lot more sense now. So God lays down the law, reestablishes the covenant, but then he also gets into some pretty specific details about how the Israelites should live their lives, right? We're talking feasts, observances, even some quirky rules about food.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah. I want to unpack that for us a little bit.
Sure. The feasts and observances, they're more than just rituals.
Okay.
They're woven into the fabric of their lives. They connect them to the agricultural cycles.
Okay.
Their history.
Right.
Their identity as God's chosen people.
So it's about rhythm, right? It's about like...
It's about a way of life.
A way of life, yeah.
That honors God.
Okay, so there's the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right?
Right.
Which commemorates...
their escape from Egypt.
Their hasty escape from Egypt. And then the Sabbath.
The Sabbath.
Which is a weekly reminder.
Of God's creation.
Of God's creation and a call for rest. And then you've got the Feast of Weeks.
Right. Tied to the wheat harvest.
Which is tied to the wheat harvest.
Yes.
The Feast of Ingathering.
Celebrating the fall harvest.
Which celebrates the fall harvest. And then the offering of first fruits.
Right.
Which is about acknowledging
God's provision.
God's provision, yeah. So it's a whole system.
Yes, it is.
It's designed to keep God at the center.
At the head of their lives.
From the mundane to the momentous.
It's really interesting how these ancient practices still resonate with us today.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, we might not celebrate the Feast of Weeks anymore.
Right.
But we still have Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
A time to gather. With loved ones.
Give thanks.
And be thankful.
Express gratitude for what we have.
For all the blessings.
Yeah.
Right. So do you see these feasts as having any relevance for us today?
I think even though we may not observe them in the same way, the underlying principles are timeless.
Okay.
They speak to the importance of gratitude, remembrance, community, and acknowledging where our provision comes from.
Yeah, it's about those core values, really.
It's not just about the rules. It's about cultivating a way of life that honors God.
Right.
And fosters a deeper relationship with him.
Right. Okay, I'm with you on that. But then there's that rule about not boiling a kid in its mother's milk.
That's a weird one, right?
I mean, what is that all about? It seems so...
It's a head scratcher.
Random?
Yeah. Actually, that one has stumped scholars for centuries.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, some think it was a pagan practice.
Okay, that God was prohibiting.
Right.
Others see it as a symbol of compassion, not causing undue suffering to animals.
Okay.
Maybe even a broader message about treating all creatures with respect.
Interesting.
What do we think?
Honestly, I'm a little lost on that one.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea of it being about compassion.
It's a good thought. Really.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of cool that even after all these years, there's still room for interpretation, for debate. It kind of keeps the text.
It keeps it alive.
Right.
It's not just a static relic.
Yeah.
It's a living document that continues to
It's
constantly evolve
in new and unexpected ways.
Yeah. All right, so...
and sometimes those seemingly random details are the ones that spark the most interesting conversations.
Totally. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But we're not quite finished yet.
Oh, no, not yet.
We've got more to dig into. We've got a lot more to unpack.
So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
Into Exodus chapter 34.
It's going to be good.
All right, see you then.
See you then.
Okay, so... picking up where we left off, right?
Right.
We've got a renewed covenant, a whole list of do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
And now we get to one of the most visually striking parts of Exodus 34.
Definitely.
Moses coming down from Mount Sinai with a face that's literally glowing.
It's quite an image.
I mean, talk about a side effect.
Right. It's not your average sunburn.
No, not at all. So how do you interpret this radiance?
Well, a lot of people see it as... a physical manifestation of Moses' spiritual transformation.
All right.
I mean, he spent 40 days and nights in the presence of God.
Right.
So it makes sense, right? But think about it.
Yeah.
If you saw someone with a glowing face, how would you react?
Honestly, I'd probably think they'd discovered a new skincare product or something.
Right. But for the Israelites, it was pretty terrifying.
They were actually afraid.
Yeah, they were afraid to even look at him. Which is why Moses starts wearing a veil.
Right.
Right, he covers his face when he's talking to the people.
So it's like this incredible encounter with the divine has made him too much for them to handle.
Right, it's like he's too radiant.
Yeah, too bright.
Too overwhelming.
Yeah. And Matthew Henry has an interesting take on the veil, too.
He does, yeah.
He connects it to the idea of the Old Testament law being less clear, kind of, than the New Testament gospel.
Yeah, like the veil is obscuring the full picture.
Right.
Which wouldn't be revealed until Jesus.
Right.
So in a sense, it represents a kind of spiritual nearsightedness, a limited understanding of God's plan.
So the veil is kind of like a filter.
Yeah, you could see it that way.
Blocking out.
Yeah, like a buffer.
For some of that intensity.
Exactly.
But then Moses removes the veil when he goes back to talk to God.
Interesting, right.
What do you make of that?
Well, I think it suggests a level of intimacy.
Okay.
You know, a closeness that allows Moses to stand in God's presence without being overwhelmed.
Because he can handle it.
Yeah, his relationship with God is so strong.
It's like he's saying, I got this, God, let's talk.
Exactly.
Okay, so the veil is more than just a physical barrier.
Right, it's symbolic.
It's a symbol of their spiritual readiness, their capacity to grasp the full scope of God's revelation.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. About our own encounters with the divine, I mean.
Right. Are we approaching God with open hearts?
Yeah.
Ready to receive his full revelation? Or are we holding up our own veils?
Ooh, that's good. That's really good.
Shielding ourselves from the light.
I think we all have our veils in one way or another, right?
We do.
Things that block us from seeing God clearly.
Yeah.
Fear, doubt, preconceived notions.
All sorts of things.
You know, all those things can act as veils.
They can.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's zoom out for a second and look at some of the broader themes that run through this chapter.
It's a lot, right?
It is. We've got forgiveness, justice, obedience, grace, law. It's
a lot to unpack.
It's a lot to unpack. So what do you think are some of the key?
Well, I think these themes aren't just abstract concepts, right?
Oh,
They're woven into the very fabric of the Israelites' relationship with God.
Okay, so how do you...
We see this tension between God's incredible mercy and the consequences of sin, right?
Yeah. He's willing to forgive, to offer second chances, but there are still repercussions.
There are their actions.
Actions have consequences,
right,
even when they're motivated by good intentions.
Yeah, it's like that saying, you can forgive, but you don't forget.
Exactly.
Right. They experience God's grace, but they also have to work through
They do.
The fallout of their choices.
It's a reality we all face, right?
We do, yeah. I mean, we can receive forgiveness, but we still have to live with the consequences of our actions.
And in this case, the Israelites' desire for security, for something tangible to hold on to.
Right.
That led them astray.
Yeah.
It's a cautionary tale.
It is. It is. Okay, so how do you reconcile these seemingly contradictory aspects of God's nature?
A good question.
Right. He's merciful, but he's also he offers grace, but he demands obedience.
Right.
It's a bit of a...
It's the beauty of it, I think.
Yeah.
It forces us to grapple with the complexities of faith.
Okay.
To move beyond simplistic notions of God as, a cosmic vending machine.
Right.
Who dispenses rewards and punishments.
Yeah, it's deeper than that.
It is.
Okay, so how does all of this translate to our lives today?
Well, I think first off, it reminds that second chances are possible, no matter how badly we mess up.
Right.
God is always willing to forgive, to offer a fresh start.
So it's not a get-out-of-jail-free card.
No, but it's a new beginning.
Right, right.
Forgiveness requires a change of heart.
Okay, so it's not just about saying sorry and moving on.
No, it's about taking responsibility for our actions.
Right, and making an effort.
Making a conscious effort to do better.
To do better.
And that's where the tension between grace and law comes in.
Okay.
Right? God's grace frees us from the burden of trying to earn our salvation through rule following.
Right.
But it doesn't give us license to live however we please.
Okay, so it's about finding that balance.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Embracing the freedom of grace while still recognizing the importance of living in accordance with God's will.
It's not always easy.
No, it's not.
But it's the path to true fulfillment.
It's the path. Okay.
It all circles back to that central theme of the covenant. Yeah. God's commitment to his people, even when they falter, is unwavering, right?
So it's a message of hope.
It is.
Of enduring love.
That transcends time and circumstance.
Yeah. It's pretty powerful stuff.
It is.
And it speaks to, our own hearts.
It does.
Our own longing for connection, for belonging.
Yes, for a love that never fails.
Right, for that unconditional love.
Precisely.
Okay.
And in a way, I think the whole story of Exodus, with its highs and lows, its triumphs and tragedies, it's a reflection of our own spiritual journeys.
Interesting, yeah.
We're all on this path of seeking God, right?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what it means to live a life that honors him.
Right.
And inevitably, we're going to stumble along the way.
We're human.
We are, but the beauty of it is
Yeah.
God's grace is always there to pick us up, dust us off, and set us back on the right course.
It's like those stars that navigators used to rely on.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Even on the darkest night, they were always there.
Always there, yeah.
Pointing the way home.
That's a beautiful analogy.
So even though we may feel lost at times, disoriented,
we can trust that God is guiding us.
Yeah, even when we can't see the way forward.
Even when we can't see.
Clearly, yeah.
It's a comforting thought, isn't it?
It is.
Know that even in our moments of darkness, God's light is still shining, guiding us towards our ultimate destination.
Wow, okay. I'm feeling pretty inspired right now.
Me too.
But before we get too carried away, let's pause for a moment and consider. All right, so we've covered a lot in Exodus 34. God's attributes, that whole jealous God concept, the covenant reset, Moses's radiant makeover, and even that mysterious rule about not cooking a baby goat in its mama's milk.
It's a strange one.
Yeah, that one's still kind of stumping me.
Right.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I gotta ask, what's the so what? Why should any of this...
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Because on the surface, it might seem like just another ancient story, right? Yeah. Full of all these archaic laws and rituals that don't really apply to us today. But I think if we dig a little deeper, we'll find some surprisingly timely and universal truths.
All right, I'm all ears. Lay them on me.
Okay, well, first off, Exodus 34 reminds us that second chances are possible.
Okay.
Even after we've made some, pretty epic mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, the Israelites, They built a golden calf.
I mean, come on.
And worshipped it while Moses was up on the mountain.
Yeah, well, he's getting the 10 Commandments.
Getting the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
Talk about...
With the face.
Right. But God, despite being, I mean, understandably angry...
Oh, yeah.
He still chooses to renew the covenant, to offer them...
Another chance.
Another chance.
It's pretty remarkable, I think.
It is. It's a powerful message of...
Yeah, it's about forgiveness.
Forgiveness and grace.
Grace, yeah. No matter how badly we mess up,
right.
God's always willing to meet us where we are and offer a path back to relationship.
And that's something we could all use a little more of, right?
We could.
Especially these days. Grace for ourselves.
Yep.
Grace for others.
It's so easy to judge, right?
It is. It is. We're so quick to condemn, to hold on to grudges.
It's true.
But Exodus 34, it challenges us to let go of that anger, that bitterness.
And embrace the possibility of redemption.
Right. Both for ourselves and for those who have wronged us.
For everyone.
Okay. I'm feeling the grace vibes.
It's good.
But what about that whole jealous God thing? I'm still kind of hung up on that.
I get it. It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
But I think it helps to remember that,
yeah.
in this context, jealousy isn't about pettiness or possessiveness, right?
Right.
It's about protecting the Israelites from harm.
So it's more about
from straying from the path.
Keeping them safe.
Yeah.
Right. Than about God being possessive or controlling.
Yeah, like a parent.
Right.
Who's trying to keep their kid safe.
Yeah, they don't want to see their kid get hurt by making, foolish choices.
No parent does.
Right. And we can apply that same principle to our own lives, right? I mean, what are the things that we're allowing?
Yeah, good question.
Distract us from our relationship.
What are our golden calves
with God? What are the golden calves that we're tempted to worship?
Even if we know they're not good for us.
Right. Even if we know they're not ultimately fulfilling.
Yeah. It could be anything.
I mean, it could be anything, right?
Because
social media,
yeah.
Career ambitions, that extra slice of cake. I mean,
that extra slice of cake for sure.
Anything that we put.
Yeah, anything that we prioritize.
Above our relationship with God.
Over our relationship with God.
Can become an idol, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And Exodus 34, it reminds us to be vigilant, to be constantly checking our hearts, making sure that God is
at the center,
really at the center of our lives.
Right, because ultimately
it's in that alignment.
It's in that surrender.
That surrender to his will.
Yeah.
That we find true peace and joy.
That's where it's at.
Okay, so we've got second chances. We've got grace.
We do.
We've got a reminder to check our idols.
Check those idols.
At the door. What else can we glean from this ancient text?
Well, I think Exodus 34 also speaks to the importance of living with intention.
Okay.
Of making conscious choices.
Right.
About how we spend our time and energy.
So it's not just about believing in God.
It's about putting that belief into action.
Right. It's about actively incorporating that belief.
Incorporating it into our lives.
Into our daily lives.
Exactly. And, that can look different for different people.
Yeah, totally.
It might be through prayer, meditation, acts of service, spending time in nature.
Right.
Connecting with other believers.
Whatever works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, the point is to find ways to cultivate that conscious awareness of God in our lives.
And I think that's something we all crave,
We do.
Whether we realize it or not.
That sense of connection.
Yeah, that sense of connection.
Belonging, being part of something bigger.
Yeah. Totally.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Exodus 34.
It's an invitation, really.
It's an invitation.
To enter into a covenant relationship with a God who loves us.
Unconditionally.
Unconditionally, yeah.
Who forgives us when we falter and who guides us on the path.
To wholeness and fulfillment.
Towards wholeness and fulfillment. It's a
beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful invitation.
It is.
And it makes me think about that image of Moses, coming down from the mountain.
With that glowing face.
With that radiant face. It's like a visual representation of the transformation that's possible.
It's powerful.
When we truly encounter God's presence.
It is. And maybe that's the most important takeaway, for this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
The reminder that even though we stumble.
We will.
And fall along the way.
Yeah.
God's grace is always there to lift us up.
Yeah.
To heal us, to renew us, and to make us shine.
Yeah, to make us shine with his love.
To make us shine.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired.
Good.
So as we wrap up, this exploration of Exodus 34, what's the one thing you want our listeners?
I would say this. Remember that you are loved, you are forgiven, and you are capable of incredible transformation.
Powerful words.
Embrace the grace that's available to you. Be vigilant against the idols that seek to distract you. And cultivate a relationship with God that is marked by love, not fear.
Beautifully said. All right, on that note, I think it's time for us to sign off.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Exodus 34.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it's sparked some new insights, some fresh perspectives. And maybe even a little bit of that... a
little bit of that radiant glow.
Radiant glow.
Yes.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep allowing God's love to transform you.
Keep growing.
From the inside out.
Absolutely.